So we have our final talk of the evening. So our next and last speaker of the evening is someone who wants to be able to inspire us to achieve our goals, even if they seem unattainable. So please welcome to the stage Furhad Nasserjah.
Thank you. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody for coming out here. It means the world for me to be able to stand up here and share my ideas with you guys. I very frequently use TED Talks myself when I was looking for inspiration or tutorials or anything that interested me. This was the very first source that I would go to when I wanted to get information from people, from experts in the field. This is how I learned, and it's the most surreal feeling to be standing up here and giving a speech myself. So I just want to thank everybody for coming out here. It means the world. For my talk, I just wanted to talk about how students like us, I feel like the demographic here is mostly for college students, people who just got out of college. And one thing that I want to share, one thing that I want to push the most in this speech is that I want people to strive their hardest to accomplish any goal that they set their mind to, no matter what it is. If it's just taking a step towards achieving that goal, if it's trying something new, if you want to learn how to tie a tie, if you want to play lacrosse, play sports, learn how to skateboard, learn how to dance, no matter what it is, I just want to show you guys the things that I implemented to accomplishing my own goals, as well as the experiences that I had. It wasn't just about accomplishing these goals. At first, it was just more of a bucket list. I wanted to cross things off. I wanted to learn new things. But afterwards, I realized that it wasn't just about crossing things off my list. It was the experience that I went through, and it was the amazing people that I got to meet throughout it. So as a college student, I feel like we all know how stressful things can be. Most of us are full-time students or part-time students. We have jobs, we have bills to pay, we have parents to please. we have to do a lot of things, and it can be pretty stressful. With time especially, that can be one of the biggest adversities that one has to pass through. It is trying to organize ourselves and figure out how we can go through our standard things. We want to finish school, we want to get that job, but also, if you want to climb the 7 summits of the world, how do you also put that in your list of things to do when you're working that 9 to 5 or when you're going to school every day? So I wanted to first talk about myself a little bit, if that's okay. When I was younger, it's awesome to see a lot of people here, some familiar faces. A lot of people that are here, they know me from recently, a couple of years ago, maybe it was just this semester. But if you knew me before this, I wasn't anything like I am now. I used to be a pretty shy kid. I wasn't the best student. I was always super skinny. I'm still super skinny. But I was never good at sports. I was just a bad kid. I got suspended from school multiple times. Sorry for bringing that up, Mom. But I was a bad kid. I felt like there were so many labels placed on me. I was unathletic. I wasn't cool. I wasn't funny. I wasn't good with people. I was nervous around everything. I was bad at so many things. And I was always labeled as that kid who couldn't do anything. I tried so many things. I tried playing piano, basketball. I was the only person on my basketball team to never make a shot the entire season. They were throwing me the ball and I would shoot it and I would just miss every single time. It was the most embarrassing thing. I tried so many things, but I gave up on everything. And I was just labeled as that kid who gave up. Even to this day, every time I try to pick up something new, my whole family, the first thing is like, oh, we give you like 1 month tops until you give it up. So this was the thing that I felt was holding me back the most. It was labels. Everybody was labeling me, and labels are placed on other people as well. You're either that student, you're either that athlete, you're either that really cool kid. You're labeled, and I feel like that's the biggest restriction someone can put on you, or you can put on yourself. So what I want to do is I want to show people that labels shouldn't prohibit you from doing things. They shouldn't put you in a box. And so these were mostly the labels that I felt like were placed on me. I was skinny, I was unathletic, I didn't have friends, I wasn't cool, I wasn't smart, I wasn't talented, I was always a quitter. I felt like I was always in the shadow of my sister, who was always good at everything. She was the captain of the tennis team. She had straight A's, she had friends, she had it all. And I felt like I was always, these were my labels, these were what were restricting me. So I just finished high school, and I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to change something in my life. I wasn't sure what it was. I just knew that I wanted to try something different. And I wanted to make a difference in my life. I wanted to make my parents proud. I wanted to just try something new. I wanted to give something my all and just see if maybe if I gave my all in one thing, if I just focused on one thing at a time, would I be able to accomplish that one thing that I wanted to achieve? So I first wanted to start with school. When I just got out of high school, I wasn't doing too well. I was an average student, nothing more than that. So when I got out of high school, I was like, you know what, I'm going to Northern Virginia Community College. I want to try something different. I'm going to change a lot of things and see if it works out for me. And I set my goals pretty high. I thought to myself, if I give it my all, if I try everything that I can, why can't I be that top student? Why can't I graduate with a 4.0? Why can't I graduate with honors? Why can't I be that top student if I give it my all? So I started off with school. And so these were the things that I had to do to implement. These are the things I had to implement into doing well in school for me specifically. It was study groups. I wasn't really good with friends in high school. I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't talk to a lot of people. Probably one of the toughest things for me every single day at school was figuring out who I was going to sit next to at lunch. So getting into college, I figured let me try and make some friends. Let me try and study with a group of people. Maybe that'll help. So when I tried to do better in school, I realized that I was starting to make friends. I was starting to get people to study with, and it was so much more enjoyable that way. I started to organize my time better. I figured if I can organize my time, if I can set specific times where I'm studying for a specific class, and I just keep things super simple, I realize what my teacher wants. Even to this day I do this. When I start a college course, I realize, what does this teacher want? What is she grading me on? What are the criteria that I need to study for? And those are the things that I implement so that I can hopefully do the best in that class. The next thing was focus. And that was probably one of the toughest things. I never was the kid to sit down and study for 8 hours at a time. I never was that kid who could stay up late to study. And for once I was like, you know what, I'm going to give it my all. If I walk into this test studying everything that I know that this teacher wants, all the criteria, she wants me to read the textbook, I'll read the textbook. If I walk into this test knowing, focused, and I feel like there's nothing that she can ask me on this test that I wouldn't know, then how could I possibly fail? So I really focused down on this on my first few years at college, and this probably was the biggest change. And that focus, that drive, that no matter what, I was going to do well. I was going to sit in that room, and I wasn't going to leave until I understood everything. This is one of the biggest changes that I had to make. And lastly was enjoyment. Growing up, I always was like, all right, I just got to get that grade. I just got to pass. I just got to get out of this class. And when I realized, I want to either be a zoo at that time, I was either going to be a zoo veterinarian or I was going to be a doctor. And I realized, I'm in school, I'm learning all these things, and this is going to be my future. The things that I'm learning, these are, lab practices that I'm going to use in my future. The biology that I learned, the chemistry that I learned, the physics that I learned, these are all things that are going to be on my MCAT, and they were. And I'm just glad that I studied for it, and I stopped looking at it as a class that I wanted to pass, and I started to look at it as an opportunity for me to better myself for my future. It was just a learning atmosphere, and I started to enjoy school more, I was hanging out with people, I was organized, I was less stressed, and lastly, I was just enjoying it more, and that made the world of a difference. So in the end, I ended up graduating from Nova with a 4.0 and graduated with honors, and that was the biggest, I never thought that I could accomplish something like that. To me, I was always that average student. I never once thought that I would get an A. Even after I got my first A, I was like, all right, next time I'm definitely getting that C. Let's not get too happy here. So it meant the world to me, that I was able to set a goal, and I didn't give up on it, and I figured, okay, if I could accomplish one goal, what more can I do? So after I started to do well in school, then again came those labels. Everybody was calling me that future doctor, that smart kid, and to some people that's a great thing. You're considered smart. You're going to be a doctor. But to me, it was restricting me. I felt like I had so many expectations placed on me, like, all right, now when I go to George Mason, everyone's going to expect me to do well. Now I have to be that doctor. I can't switch out, or otherwise I'll disappoint somebody. So again, I was labeled, and I felt like I couldn't change myself. I feel like I couldn't like experiment with things that I wanted to do because of these labels. So I then again was like, all right, I'm gonna try something new. As a kid, I was always trying things, but I always just gave up. So the next thing is I wanted to try art. I was I was taking a couple of art classes in high school. It was mostly history classes, but I realized it was something that I really wanted to try. I was watching YouTube, and I'd watch all these artists. They'd be drawing like the most amazing things, and I was like, why can't I do that? If I put in the time, if I put in the effort, why can't I do that as well? So the very first thing that I started to do is portraits. To me, it was amazing to see other artists to just create a piece of artwork that could trick your mind into seeing something as like a picture. So that's what so that's what I wanted to do first. I started with portraits, and I was absolutely terrible with portraits. I was absolutely terrible with graphite drawing, but that's what I started off with. About that, man, I thought I was sweating before. Oh my God. Okay, so I started off with drawing. These were a couple of my first drawings. I started with realism. I started with graphite, and I enjoyed it so much. I practiced a whole bunch. I watched tons of YouTube videos, and in the end, here's a couple of more drawings I did. And this is when I was able to actually start selling drawings for once. I always had a job my entire life. From when I was 16, I always had a job, working in a cafe, working at Apple, working at the pharmacy. I always had a job, and this was another way that I could make revenue. And it was awesome to make money and to be able to sustain myself doing something that I enjoyed, something that I loved. So here's a couple more drawings I did. And so I started doing portraits, and then I was like, you know what? I even started making Craigslist ads. I was teaching classes, portrait classes on Craigslist. Like we would meet up at Starbucks or something, and we'd do like portrait classes. And I met a whole bunch of amazing people. And so I was like, you know what? I want to try something new now. I want to stay in art. Maybe this time I'll start painting. So I started painting, and I tried a whole bunch of different styles. I didn't want to restrict myself again. I didn't want to be just that realism artist. So I tried a couple of different styles. I even made my own style. I call it like stippled art because it's kind of like pointy. And that got me the opportunity to do paintings for like a couple of breweries. This one's in Herndon for the Warthog Brewery. And I just did tons of commissioned paintings, and I got a couple of paintings in the Lauren Workhouse Art Museum, the Torpedo Factory. So I was pretty successful with art, and it was awesome to see that I was putting in the time, I was putting in the effort, and again, you achieve something if you implement the specific criteria that I was lacking. And here's a couple of realistic paintings that I also did recently. So I then wanted to try something new, I was doing paintings, I was doing drawings, and I was doing that so much that I honestly got a little bit bored of it. I wanted to try something new. And one thing that I had never worked with was a medium, which was wood. So I wanted to start off with wood, and I was like, I saw a bear carving one time on YouTube, and I was like, man, that's not that bad. That can't be that hard. Well, this was my first bear, and it was really bad. It was really hard. I tried carving with the chainsaw, and I struggled so much. My mom wouldn't even let me put it in front of the house. She said it was so ugly. So, so I practiced. I was like, okay, this was my first bear. I'm going to practice a whole bunch. I'm going to watch a whole bunch of videos. I'm going to see exactly how these other people did it. I was like, all right, I can draw, so let me draw out some sketchbooks. Let me grid this. Let me see what worked for me before. Let me try and implement it into wood carving. So this was my second bear. So I was like, all right, I'm doing a little bit better, progress. So I worked at it, and here's them side by side. None of these were in front of the house because she didn't want them there. So I was like, okay, it's working. I like working with wood. It's keeping things fresh. It's keeping things new, and it's exciting to try something and struggle with it. I actually liked that I was struggling with something, and because I saw the progress that I was making, and it made me want to keep trying harder. Oh, sorry. So, I continued doing it. I started making bears. I started making football-themed bears, and I'd sell them during, like, the Super Bowl. Man, see, I'm not sports inclined. I had to think about that one. So I started selling them during the Super Bowl. I started making furniture out of them, made gifts. They make very good gifts. If you don't have a lot of money, try carving. Make art. So I started doing that, and then I had the opportunity to actually, I got a call one day, and they saw my ad for like the Bears, and they were like, "Hey, how would you feel about making a playground for a what's it called? A Montessori academy, a school in Harrington. We're making a school in Harrington. We'd like you to make a playground out of wood." And I was just like, honestly, the first thing that I told them, I was like, "There's no way I can do that. I've never made a playground, and all I do is bears. That's all I can do. That's all I feel comfortable doing." But they called me back, and they were like, "Look, man, you're one of the few wood carvers that we could find in Woodbridge. It'd be nice for you to try something new, and we'd love for a local artist to make this." So me and my dad, we watched a whole bunch of videos. We went out, bought logs. We found logs, super heavy, by the way, super heavy. So and like we tried to come up with a whole bunch of different things. Over there is like a little ball thing. You'd push the ball and it'd roll down. Hopping sticks. We made like a little balance beam over here. So it was my first time making a playground, and I didn't just hop on. I didn't just jump at the idea because I was honestly nervous. I was afraid to fail, and I was afraid to injure a little kid. So but I'm so glad that I took that opportunity, because it's something that I can share with people. It's something that I can stand up here and talk about. That it was something that it was a challenge that I had. I at first said no because I was afraid to do it. I was afraid to fail. And in the end, I'm super happy with what happened, and it was a great experience. I got to see the whole school evolve from being an empty lot to having a playground there. Now there's kids there, and they're doing very well. So after that, I'm doing art, and I realized I'm making some money off of it. I'm able to live off of it, and I enjoyed it so much. So I wanted to give back somehow. So that's when I started. From the very beginning, I was doing this as well. But what I started to do was every single month I would donate. Every time I would make a profit, if 50% of it or more I would donate. So that got me the opportunity to stand in front of crowds and provide charitable, we held events, Alzheimer's research, cancer research, all these different organizations that I was able to finally give back to. And that was such a amazing feeling. Excuse me. So, it started off with portraits, started off with not being able to draw, never taking any formal art classes, and to being able to sustain myself with it and be able to give back to the community. Meeting all these amazing people and trying all these different mediums, it was a great opportunity for me, yeah. So these are the things that I had to overcome. Again, it was organization. How do I organize my time to try all these different things? Wood, painting, drawing. I had to organize my time and really see what I was doing, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to do all these things. Second was diversity. I was drawing, I was painting, and I was getting bored of it. And that's why I started to try new things. I started to change my medium. I started to change the style of art that I was creating. I didn't want to be put in a box again. Self-study. I had to watch tons of YouTube videos. A lot of people don't try a lot of things because they feel like they don't, there's no teacher. A lot of people feel you need to have a teacher. You need to be in school for these type of things. But there's a wealth of knowledge online. YouTube videos, Googling. Even if you go to somebody that is an artist and you ask them for help, you don't have to be in school to learn everything. And self-study was one of the ways that I was able to start off and end my art career and where I am currently. And finances. I was trying so many different things. I wasn't sure whether I should pursue something. I wasn't sure whether I should rent a truck for $200 so I can go get some logs. I don't know how my bear is going to turn out. I don't know if I should, spend $300 on a wood slab to make a table. What if nobody buys it? So I really had to realize what was worth it and what was not. What is a smart financial decision and what is not? And I'll talk about all these things, how I specifically chose what was a good idea for me and what wasn't a little bit later. So next, here was a couple more labels. Then I was that artist kid. Everybody was calling, "Where's the artist kid? What'd you make now?" I'd ride a skateboard and somebody would be like, "Did you make that?" "No, I didn't make it. It's a skateboard." I'd pick up a guitar. "Did you make that?" "No, I didn't make this guitar." I was just known as that artist kid. Everyone was asking me what I made, and that was another label. It was restricting me again. So I was like, all right, let me try something new. I was making things. I was doing good in school. I loved learning. And then the very next thing was I never was into cars, but cars was the next thing. I was like, you know what? I like learning. I like trying new things, but I was like, cars never honestly really interested me. And I feel like it's for a couple of reasons. You know, a college student buying a car, probably not the best financial decision. Even if it's a new car, you know, you buy a car, it depreciates in the next year. It's worth a little bit less. And also, it was something that I didn't feel like I could customize too much. I didn't feel like it was unique or it had character. So I was like, you know, what type of car can I work on? It's a field that I don't know anything about. What type of car can I work on that can let me just go crazy, you know, try new things, it'll be different, and maybe it'll be a good investment. So what I started to work on was classic cars. This was the first car that I got. We actually picked it up in North Carolina, so it was it's these crazy things where I'm just like, hey Dad, I saw a car, I'm gonna buy it. It's a pretty good price, but it's in North Carolina, you know. It's 6 in the morning, wake up please, we gotta go. Somebody else is gonna buy it. So, you know, it's just all these events, all these experiences that you have. Like, yeah, it's just buying a car, yeah, it's just fixing a car, but it's the experiences, the like spending time with your family to go all the way to North Carolina and get it. You know, this car was leaking, it overheated. On the way back, it was the worst trip ever. There was no AC. My poor dad had to drive it. I didn't know how to drive stick shift at that time. It was like 100 degrees. It was overheating. We had to stop every 30 minutes. It was horrible. But the car itself, it was a good car. It didn't need too much work. It ran, it drove. Everything could have been replaced, but it didn't need to be replaced. So that was the good thing. It was a project, but it wasn't too big of a project. So me and my dad, you know, we worked on it. The bumpers were missing. It was missing paint. The interior was pretty bad. It wasn't running too perfectly. Carburetors needed changing. And me and my dad, we don't know anything like this. We weren't mechanics. We didn't really know anything. So what we did was we just watched a whole bunch of videos. We Googled everything. And even I went onto forums. I went onto forums, I asked people, and I got that information. And me and my dad, we restored the car pretty much entirely ourselves. So here was some there were some before pictures, here's the afters. So I learned so much from this project, and I was like, you know what? I got this car, I really enjoyed it. I even ended up selling it for profit, and I was like, I love doing this. I want to do more. So what's the next project, Dad? So this time, hopefully with AC, he said. So the next thing was I was like, you know what? My dream car is a Camaro, 69 Camaro. That has always been my dream car, and I was like, before I couldn't afford it. This was the only car that I could afford at that time that I felt looked pretty cool. I was like, maybe I can pick up some spicy senoritas in this car. Didn't happen though, just letting you guys know. So I was like, you know what, let me try something new. I learned a little bit. I feel like I have a little bit of experience. I want to try something new. So the next thing was I got that 69 Camaro, and honestly, it was in pretty rough shape. It was in such rough shape that I actually was embarrassed to take a picture of the front end. So, you know, I was sending pictures to my family. I was like, look at the car I bought. Look at the back. It's so cool. And then they were like, send us pictures of the front. Send us pictures of the interior. What does it look like? I was like, maybe a little bit later. So this is when we got it, and we actually got this one in Pennsylvania, so another fun trip. But luckily, my dad didn't have to drive this one. There was no engine in it. So luckily, we towed it back. And that was another thing. You know, we never rented a tow truck before. It was another experience, spending time with my mom, my dad. They were telling me I'm crazy the whole time. But it was a fun time to spend with them, and I just knew it was going to be a really cool experience restoring this car. So, you know, it was in really rough shape. There was no interior. The subframe was completely it needed painting, it needed brakes, it needed suspension, it needed everything. So we sought out to restore it. And, you know, at first I felt a little bit overwhelmed. I was like, you know, I got in way over my head. The other car at least had an interior, at least had something to sit on. But this one had nothing. It had absolutely nothing. It needed wiring, it needed everything. So at first I felt a little overwhelmed, but I was like, you know, I'll take it one step at a time. I'll make a list. I'm going to go through one thing at a time, cross it off one by one. Seats, interior, lighting, wiring, everything. And also my bank account I was crossing off numbers one by one as well. So, you know, after a whole bunch of work, we slowly are working on it. We're still not totally done, but, you know, with effort, with time, with patience, we've been going through it slowly. We've never done upholstery, we've never done wiring, we've never done suspension work or rebuilding differentials, but one by one we just worked on one thing at a time. And at this point, you know, the interior's in, the wiring's done, the brakes are done, the suspension is done, the rear end's rebuilt, everything is done pretty much. And, you know, I was like, The next thing was, all right, let's put an engine in. And I was like, let's be a little bit different this time. Let's put in a modern engine. Let's make it a little bit tougher. So we bought a 2005 Cadillac CTS-V, and there's my brother-in-law. Here's another thing. It was like all these experiences, all these fun things that I was like, let's just make it a little bit harder, try something new. But the best part was I got to spend that time with my brother-in-law, with my family, with my cousins. There should be a picture up there, but it's not. But it was all these amazing experiences that I got to have, all these amazing people that I got to meet. And these are the memories that I'm going to keep. I have thousands of pictures of this car, and all these memories I'm going to be able to show my kids and just show them that you can do anything. Even if you're not a mechanic, even if you're not an expert in the field, you don't have to be. You can accomplish anything if you just do that, if you put in the time, put in the effort, and you seek out that information. Oh, by the way, that Cadillac was in such bad condition that there were no doors. The chairs weren't bolted down. That's why he's like laying down. But we still drove in it, and it was really fun, and I'm sure he remembers that. So the next thing was I was like, all right, I've done art. I've worked on cars. What's next? What's the new thing that I want to try? I was that car guy. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to make furniture out of art. That'll be cool. That'll be new. That'll be hard. So here's a GMC truck that I bought from some guy's backyard. And I was like, I'm going to make a couch out of that. And there was the engine, and I was like, I'm going to make a table out of that. I'll make a whole set, So we worked on this project. I had my family come over. I had my little cousin work on it. And it was another thing. I had never done wiring to this extent. I had never, done upholstery to this extent. I had never welded. I had never cut metal. I've never done so many things. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to learn. So many times, like when I was working on this, everybody was telling me, just take it to an upholsterer. They'll do it, maybe $100. You get the seats done. You don't have to worry about it. Just, take it to an electrician. Call somebody. They'll wire it up for you within 30 minutes. You don't know how to do it. You're going to burn the house down. I blew the fuse in the house like 4 times. There's a giant burn mark on the carpet, and I don't think she knows it yet because I covered it with the couch. So... So, there were so many times where I was like, I could just take it to an expert in the field, but I'd rather learn myself. I'd rather struggle through it and learn. So then, I'll be considered that expert. I won't have to do it. I won't have to take it to somebody else. And also, it was just that fun experience getting to learn and getting to spend time with my family and my friends. So here's just a couple of pictures of my family on it, my cousins, my sister, my aunt and uncle. As soon as I called him, I was like, look, man, it's done. He was like, I'm going to come over there right now with an ice cream cone, and I'm going to see it. I'm going to sit on it. So he came over literally 30 minutes afterwards. So it was just all these cool experiences, all that time I got to spend. These are the memories that I want to share. It's not about just the end goal of I wanted to make a couch. It was all the people and the time that I got to spend. And here's just a couple more pictures right before I zapped myself. And so these were the things that I had to go through. It was finances and experience. It was starting to get a little bit more pricey. Was it worth it to go buy a couch? The front end of a car for $300. The thing was so rusty, I wasn't sure if I could even haul it home without it falling apart. That engine table, I wasn't sure if it's worth taking apart a perfectly good engine to make a table out of it, It was all these decisions that I had to make. And then there again, it was experience. I had never worked on things to this extent. I never welded. I had never done so many things. But yet again, I was like, I want to learn. I want the experience. And I just pushed myself until I was able to accomplish it. So again, there's those labels, the car guy, that artist, that smart one, the future doctor, all these labels. But now it's starting to fade away a little bit. I'm trying so many different things. It's hard to label someone that's just doing everything. Like, what do you call this guy? What do you call this thing? So next was, and here's one of the last things I want to talk about, was the Afghan Student Union. I was never super cultural. I could barely speak my native tongue, which is Farsi. I didn't know how to pray. I didn't know how to do a lot of things. I never had too many Afghan friends. I didn't even like Afghan food that much. I was like, man, you make this all the time. It's too much. So then I was like, I was in class one day, and one of the girls, a mutual friend, just asked me, hey, do you want to join the club? So I came to one of the meetings, and they're passing around a billboard. Nobody's signing it. And I was like, hey, I'll put my name on it. What is it? I signed it, and it's a dance competition. I was like, what did I just sign up for? I was freaking out. I've never danced in my life. The only time I danced was at my sister's engagement, and it was for like 30 seconds, and I was like sweating bullets. I had to leave. I had to go outside. I was freaking out. So I had never danced, and I was like, you know what? I just signed up for it. I'm going to stick with it. You know, it'd be nice to become a little bit more culturally aware, hang out with some, you know, some people who were in common with me, as well as it'd be nice to learn how to dance, you know. I didn't pick up senoritas with that car, but maybe with those dance moves I will. So, you know, we're practicing for this dance, and it's actually probably next week, I think. And I thought at first it was just going to be about that dance. I was just going to learn how to dance. I'll you know, be a little bit less shy, and I'll learn something new. But afterwards, I realized, you know, it wasn't just about that dance. It was I met a whole bunch of really cool people. Some of them are actually sitting here. You know, they became my friends, and not only that, but they pushed me to do other things that I never thought I would do. We ran a triathlon the other time, like just the other day. A couple of weeks ago. And so here's a couple of pictures of us. You know, there's us dancing. You can see me, I'm super tall, so you can pretty much point me out anywhere. But you know, we ran that triathlon, and we're not crazy athletes. I never was that athlete. But you know, we were like, you know what, we're gonna try our best. And luckily we did pretty well. We did pretty well, although we were the only two groups there, so we did win first and second place, but we still won. So, you know, it was just a fun experience, and it was something that I never thought I would do, and it was nice to, it wasn't something that it was never something that I thought I would do, but after hanging out with them, they pushed me to do things like that, like dancing and all these other things. So I made a whole bunch of really good friends, and, you know, a couple of other experiences that I never thought I'd have. So again, there was that experience. I had never danced before. I was super shy. I didn't know how to dance. I didn't know how to get jiggy with it. I wasn't sure how to do any of this stuff. And time, you know, we're all students. I'm also doing all these other things on the side. I'm doing that art. I'm working on my car. I was like, how do I do all these things and fit it within my schedule? I still want to do it, but it's a little bit tough. You know, you make time for the things that you want to do. And I'll talk about it again, like I said, a little bit later. So you can't see it, but it's pretty faded. So those labels were starting to fade away, you know. I was trying to do all these different things, and it's, like I said, it's pretty hard to label someone that's trying to do so many different things. Those labels started to fade away, and I didn't feel like I was in that box. I didn't feel like I was super restricted anymore. So these were the forms of adversity that I, in general, had to overcome throughout all these different things that I tried. It was experience. In here, I want to talk about a couple of specific things, exactly what I did. So when it came to experience, most importantly, I feel like the thing that I emphasized was I did everything online. You know, I looked up YouTube videos. Almost everything that you want to do, you can find a YouTube video on it. Like, believe me, it's pretty hard to find something that there isn't a YouTube video on. I looked up on Google. I looked up things on Google. I looked up things on forums. And when worse came to worse and I couldn't do something, I sought out help from people that I knew could help me, experts in the field, and you'd be surprised. Even if you go to a mechanic and you tell him, you know, I'm trying to do this project. I'm not exactly sure how to wire up these headlights. Could you help me? And they're 9 times out of 10, they're more than willing to do anything they can to help somebody because they see somebody's trying to learn something that they enjoy themselves, and they want to help. And that was a great thing that I realized. I never thought that you could go to someone who's an expert in the field who does this for a living, and they'd be so willing to help you out. And that was one thing that I learned. Another thing was financially. It was, you know, I tried to do all these different things. Some of them cost a little bit more, but I was like, how do I decide what's worth doing and what's not? What's a good investment, what's not? And so one thing that I did was budgeting. I realized, you know, if I'm getting a paycheck, if I save 20% of that and I put it towards one of these things that I enjoy, I'll do that. It's got to be 20%, not a penny less, not a penny more. 20% every single month, that's going to whatever I want to do for fun. You know, I wasn't eating out too much. I restricted myself. I didn't go out bowling. I didn't go out ice skating. You know, I didn't do a lot of things because this for me was fun, you know. Not only that, but I was doing it, my family's doing it, I was making friends doing it. And so I didn't have to go out and buy the most expensive clothes, as you can see. You know, I don't have the best style. I don't have the best haircut. I don't have a whole bunch of nice things. But what I do have is I have time to do all these other things. I have the ability to pay for things that I want to do by restricting myself a little bit. and being a little bit conscious about my finances. As well as if I wanted to start a project, say the couch, I bought that front end for like, every time I'd buy something, I would ensure that at the end, if worst came to worst and I gave up, I would be able to sell the raw materials, at least to make my money back. I bought a wood slab like 3 days ago to make that table, and that wooden table with the bear. And I was like, you know what, even if I buy this slab and I can't make a table out of it, I can't get it to stand on the legs, I can sell this wood back. If I have this car, and I give up on it and I can't finish it, I can always sell it back and I can make my money back. So it was ideas that I was like, all right, I'm going to invest in this project, but I'm going to make sure that I'd hope to, at least in worst case scenario, make my money back. Next was failure. I was super afraid of failing in a lot of things, and I had to put that out of my head. I had to stop saying, what if, what if, what if? And instead I was saying, you know what, let me try this, and I realized that even if I did fail, it was okay. I'm running an Ironman in June, and I was like, the first time I got in that swimming pool, first time probably since 4th grade, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna swim 60 laps in 60 minutes. I got 3 laps in and I gave up, and I was like, you know what, but next time, 60 laps in 60 minutes. Came back, probably did 5. But I wasn't disappointed because I failed my goal. I was still happy because I saw improvement. I saw I was working hard at it, and I saw improvement. I kept doing it. So I set a goal pretty high, but I realized that's okay if I fail the first time. But if I keep trying and I keep trying and I don't give up, eventually I'll reach that goal, and eventually I'll surpass that goal. The Ironman's only 42 laps. It's a half Ironman, so it's only 42 laps approximately in a swimming pool. But I was like, if I can do 60, when I'm in the zone, when I'm there swimming, hopefully not drowning in that water, I'll think in my head, Furhad, you already did 60 laps. You did it, you're used to it, you're comfortable doing it. So why can't you do it? Why can't you do it now during this time? So that was another thing. I had to get rid of failure out of my head. And I had to change my perception on failure. What is failure? Even if I don't accomplish it the first time, it's not a failure to me. As long as I get up, try it again, and seek to accomplish that goal in the end. The last thing was time. I'm doing all these different things. How do I make time? And still that's pretty hard, even for this speech. I have 3 exams this week. We have dance practice after this. And, time was one of the biggest things. And one thing that I like to do is, I try, of course we all have our phones, we all have technology. And one thing that I always realized was if I wanted to make time, one thing that helped me out a lot was I actually learned this on a TED Talk too, was I would pull out my phone, I'd look at the top 5 apps, and I'd say, this week I'm going to cross this app out right here. And I would look at the timestamp, and I'd say, it looks like I spent 10 hours on YouTube this week. I would say, I'm not using YouTube at all this week. What I am going to do is, for those 10 hours throughout this week, I'm going to put it towards accomplishing that goal. I'm going to put it towards studying, I'm going to put it towards dancing, I'm going to put it towards art or the car, So I divided my time, and I cut things out that I felt like I could get rid of. And so after all this, I realized there was a couple of changes. I stopped looking at challenges as a way of failure. I stopped looking at things as something that was just challenging. I stopped looking at, when I was challenged, I realized that it was more exciting to me because I could see improvement in myself. And that was a great thing. I was, if I was struggling with something, I realized that next time I come, it won't be as hard. Even though I'm uncomfortable now dancing still, I realized, the more I do this, the more I'm going to get comfortable with it. And the more fun it becomes, the more improvement that I see in myself. The next thing was value. And initially this all started off as like a bucket list. I was like, all right, let me just start crossing things off. I want to do this, let me cross it off. But I realized that it wasn't just that. It wasn't just the value of accomplishing a goal. It was the value of spending time with your friends, with your family, meeting new people, trying new things and learning new things. I met so many amazing people over the course of the past few years when I decided to change all these different things. And that to me is what has stood out to me. I don't look at that car as, oh, it's just a car that's done. When I see my car in the garage, I don't think about that. I think about the time that me and my dad were underneath it. I think about the time that my cousin was, helping me put the carpet down. It's the memories, it's the experiences that I went through, the people that I met, the things that I learned. Those are the things that I value now, more than the end goal. And lastly, there was no more labels. What I realized was the more things that I did, the less labels that I felt were on me and the less restricted I felt. I didn't feel like I was put in a box. I didn't feel like I was restricted on a lot of things. And to me, that was what really let me go wild. I was like, I can try all these different things, and I can do all these different things. I can accomplish goals if I set forth all the things that, that I feel like I would need to do to accomplish that goal. Organizing, time, finances. But that was the most important thing. I didn't feel like I was labeled. I didn't feel like I was restricted anymore. And lastly, what I want to say is, at the end of this speech, I just hope that, throughout my life, there's always been those people that have pushed me. There's those people that have held me back. But throughout all of it, I've learned from those people. I've saw things in other people, in other things that I did, and those are the things that taught me how to be the person I am now. And at the end of this speech, if it helped anybody at all in this crowd to maybe, even just take that first step towards accomplishing your goal, or, trying something new, that would be the most amazing experience right there. And that would mean this talk and everything that I said, it was a huge achievement for me. And lastly, I was like, what? Something that I've never done is I've never wrote a quote. So I was like, let me write a quote. So another thing crossed off that list. So yeah, thank you guys so much, everybody who came out here. If you guys could please give a round of applause to the TEDx people, Ms. Rahma for putting all this together, and for everybody for coming out here. It means the world. And yeah, thank you, everybody. Oh my God.
Okay, thank you, Furhad. Wait.
Oh, sorry.
Does anyone have questions? No? Or okay.
Hey. Oh, sorry. Josh.
So I know you just told us about how so much of your experience is trying to find something new, something unexpected.
Yes, sir.
But after having this experience of you, I'm wondering what's next for you, if you have any idea.
Oh, well, I'm glad you asked. So, there's a lot of things that I want to try, honestly. So a couple of things was, I just got into sports again, tried out for the lacrosse team, so I'm working on that. The next thing is medical school for me. That's a huge step for me. It's going to be a huge environment change. I've never been away from my family, away from my friends, so that's going to be a huge change for me as well. I want to become a doctor, but again, I don't want to just be the doctor. I want to do this art thing on the side. I want to fix cars on the side, but I don't want to just stop at a doctor. When I'm 40 years old, and I've been a doctor for maybe 10 years at that point, maybe like 8 years, I don't want to just stop there. Maybe afterwards, I've been telling I also wanted to be a zoo veterinarian, so maybe I'll go back to school to become a zoo veterinarian. I also do this charity thing on the side, and I was thinking, one huge goal for me would be, I'm going to be a doctor, my sister's going to be a pharmacist, and what we want to do is we want to travel the world and we want to help people. I want to be able to give back to other countries. I want to, provide those services, the expertise that I'll have at that point, the knowledge, and I want to be able to help people. So, maybe why just stop at becoming a doctor? Why not try dentistry? Why not try pharmacy, which is already pharmacy? So, why not try something else? Why not try another field of interest? I also want to climb the 7 summits of the world. I feel like that'd be a pretty neat thing to try. There's always something. There's tons of things I want to try. And off the top of my head, I feel like that's about it. But honestly, I did just buy some wood slabs, so I'm making a table out of those right now. I also bought a whole bunch of tennis balls. I was like, I make art out of paintings and drawings and wood. Well, let me try making some abstract stuff. So I bought a whole bunch of tennis balls, and I'm gonna make a piece of art out of that. So yeah, I always try to find something new. I don't want to limit myself. I want to keep things creative, keep things different, and that's what keeps me. That's what keeps pushing me to try new things. I meet more people. They push me to try something else. Maybe when I'm working on this tennis ball project, I'll meet someone neat, and they'll make me want to try something new. So, thank you. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So to follow up on what you were just saying, I'm just curious, how are you going to find the time to do these side projects when you're doing 80-hour weeks of a medical resident?
That's a very good question. So as of right now, I've already taken a couple like internships. I've done a lot of studying on how like medical school will be. Even right now in school, you know, even though I'm a full-time student, I'm probably doing like 24, 23 credits right now. So it's pretty tough, but I always make time. I always figure out a way to make time. And maybe it's cutting out YouTube, maybe it's cutting out Facebook and Instagram. Maybe instead of one thing crossing off that top 5 list, I'll cross off 3 things off that list. So although school is important and that is my priority, I do want to do well in school. I feel it's very important that you do acclimate a little bit of time towards these things that you enjoy, because I once read this one quote, you know, they were dying to get out of school, they were dying to get into medical school, they were dying to meet that special person, that spicy señorita. They were dying to do all these different things, but in the end, they were just dying. They didn't realize that they weren't living. So although I am going to be in medical school, I find it very important to do things that you enjoy. Maybe it's, you know, going for a run once a day. I was about to say once a week. That's probably not too good. So maybe it's going for a run once a day. Maybe it's saying, you know, I'm going to run a race, an obstacle race next month. You know, it just keeps something in your mind, and you're like, while you're doing these 80 hours in medical school, you have something to look forward to. And maybe it's not drawing every single day, maybe it's not painting every single day. But as long as you're keeping something in your head, it could be a little bit into the future, but as long as you have something that you want to do, just the fact that you're looking forward to doing something, that to me is enough. Any other questions? Yes, sir?
Did you ever like find something that you got like a specific thing you got kind of like fixated on, or are you always just kind of like drifting between different hobbies and such?
As of right now, I feel like the thing that I've fixated on the most is probably school, as well as working on this car. So, you know, I've had it for about a year, and honestly, the goal that I had was, I bought it on June. I actually bought it on my 21st birthday. So, you know, I bought this car, and I was like, by the time I'm 22, I want this thing running, I want it driving, I want it done. You know, I was like, by the end of this month, I'm going to have wiring done. It didn't happen. By the end of this month, I'm going to have upholstery done. It didn't happen. But I realized, you know, even though I set those goals, they were probably unrealistic. But I figured, I'm still learning, I'm still getting things done, and still crossing things off that list. But, you know, it's hitting that June mark, you know, and that's something that I promised myself that I would get done. I'm going to have a couple of months off, so after this semester's done. So that's something that I'm going to be pretty fixated on, as well as school. You know, it's my last semester here at Mason. I'm a senior now, and I'm about to be done here. So I really want to end up on a good note. You know, I'm trying all these extracurricular activities that I had never done before. You know, like the ASU club, lacrosse. I'm doing all these things, and I'm like, it's my last semester. I want to meet all the more people that I can meet here, the better. The more things that I can try, the better. So I'm focusing on school, I'm focusing on the car, but at this point it's just I want to really soak up as much as I can at this college, at this university, because there's so much to offer, there's so much diversity, there's so many things that you can do, so many different types of people that I feel like I might not have at medical school. So that's what I'm just trying to soak in everything and really enjoy what the university has to offer at the moment. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Can we get another big round of applause for all of our speakers and also our poets for the evening? Thank you to Oscar, Roosevelt, who have both been really cooperative with us and always letting us know if any of their students are interested in presenting their ideas and research. And I also want to thank Volition for providing us with our poets. Yeah, so I wish I had a deep thing to say. But it's like I heard all these speakers and I'm already just like blown away by them, and I'm sure you all are too. So the last thing I can say is I hope you all can come to our future events as well. We have more salons coming soon next semester. We're hopefully going to have our main conference again next spring, where we have professors come in to give their own TED Talks, and yeah, we'll be happy to let everyone know about the different events we have available. And for right now, if you all would like, you can go out and enjoy the refreshments and talk with our speakers. Thank you.